The following is an exclusive presentation of Jesup Broadcasting, the sports leader in Southeast Georgia.
The world-famous Butch and Bob Show.
And good morning to you. Butch Hubbard here with you. Yeah, I'm back. 105.5 FM in Jesup, WIFO FM in Jesup. The time now is 8 o'clock. Appreciate you waking up and tuning in with the big dog this morning on this Tuesday morning, 23rd day of July. Butch Hubbard here with you along Bob Morgan. And we're going to get started here with the world-famous Butch and Bob Show, brought to you by Nips Car Wash, located on Highway 301 South, just past McDonald's on the left-hand side there with that super-duper state-of-the-art automatic car wash plus self-service bays. And also brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply, located on Northeast Broad Street in downtown Jesup. Morning, Bob.
Good morning.
Boy, you blue today. Got that nice blue-looking royal blue shirt on there and the blue Braves cap, that new Braves cap with the big black A on there. You styling this morning there, Bob.
Thank you.
Yes, your sisters would be proud if they're watching right now. You know that? Your sisters would be proud. People are probably laughing about that, but when we first started doing the video of the Butch and Bob Show streaming down BigDogCountry.com, so you can go to BigDogCountry.com and click on the Butch and Bob Show. It says B&B Show, and go to the live feed, and you'll see us right now as we're talking. Kevin's waving to everybody. And so not only do you hear it on 105.5, you can hear it and see it on BigDogCountry.com, B&B Show. So when we first did that, I don't know, what was it, a couple of years ago, Bob, something like that?
At least a couple of years ago.
Yeah, at least a couple of years ago. His sisters, which you've got 4 of them, is that correct?
4.
4 sisters would tune in to BigDogCountry.com and then get on his butt while he was wearing on the air.
They just critique what I wear.
Yeah, they just critique, you know how sisters are.
I tell them I just roll out of bed. I tell everybody I don't wake up till 9. So they don't believe me.
Yeah. He just
got to sleepwalk through all this. So.
Well, I was wondering if y'all had a Butch and Bob Show at about 11. That's my prime time.
You're fine.
Well, we appreciate
Bob,
you being
introduce
here.
our guest this morning.
They say District 2 County Commissioner Kevin McCurry with us. Ralph Hickox unfortunately couldn't make today. He texted us last night, said he has to reschedule, says he hopes to be back here tomorrow, next week, but he said he can't make it today. But anyway, we got Kevin McCurry, District 2 representative, a lot going on with the county. I want to start with this late breaking story we got. Maybe you can help us. Maybe you know something about it. But we talked to Stacey Carson with the GBI yesterday and District Attorney Jackie Johnson. They state there's currently an investigation underway in the county administrator's office, and they state they got a complaint from someone. So the question is who that someone is. Any idea, anything about that?
I have heard a little bit about it. I really don't want to discuss too much to impede the investigation.
Right.
Well, you can always say, on the advice of our attorney, I cannot make any comments.
There you go. There you go.
The question is who made the complaint. You know, there's someone who made the complaint.
No, don't know that much about it.
Okay, I just want to get that clear. I said I talked to Jackie yesterday. She said that it's going quickly, should be over shortly. She said once it's over, she'll be able to comment, but can't comment on an ongoing investigation. So
and
you're the same way.
I'm about in the same situation. Okay. The attorney told us about it to let us know.
Oh, you're only saying that because I said it.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
Well,
you just don't want to say nothing, Kevin. That's what it is, isn't it?
You should know me by now. I don't withhold information.
Again, let's backtrack. Let's go back to the Friday. A lot going on with the county. The Friday meeting was an interesting meeting, the service agreement. Your thoughts on that and how that's going to go forward?
Well, we had a work session several months ago, and that was one of the comments that I made, that we need to get apples to apples. We need to compare hard dollars for each service that we provide. And apparently the city, I heard Commissioner Harris make that comment that he felt like they needed in the city to find out what services they provide and get the dollar figures. I agree with that totally. Some of the things that are in there from 10 years ago we don't need to even look at anymore. We do need to make some changes, but I think we need to look at it more. Of the last one was on a handshake and by mouth, and I don't think that works anymore. If the board changes, they don't know what they agreed on. If we have it in writing on paper, we should not have a problem with whoever else comes in or even an outsider coming in to look at the service strategy so that we can follow that completely just like it is if it's on paper. A handshake used to work, but now it's apparently not working that good.
Again, it was an interesting meeting. Just one more question for that meeting, and we'll move on to the big topic. But Scriven Mayor, we'll hear from him tomorrow on the local news. He asked that possibly an ambulance be located out there in the Scriven area, so they got to build and all that. You represent that district. Would you be in favor of that?
Yes, I went out and looked at it. They have a nice building with living quarters in it and everything that I think would be very suitable for an ambulance service. He did send me the numbers yesterday. I had asked a while back for those, and on the number of calls that they have in the city and in the county, and also for fire and everything. But I believe it would be feasible, but like I say, we have to go through the numbers, see if it's going to be enough calls in that area to justify having an ambulance service over there. But I'm 100% for it if we need it.
Okay, again, if you just joined us, Kevin McCurry, District 2 County Representative in the studios with us. Of course, the big story is the audit. The audit's been presented. You've seen it. You've discussed it. We had your clips on the news. You said it basically confirmed everything you said prior to the audit being released. So just want to get your overall thoughts on the audit, your thoughts about the audit, and where we go from here.
Well, you know, first thing I want to do is thank my wife for all of her support and work to help me get through that point. The citizens of District 2, oh my goodness, at the outpouring of support. You know, you usually get a job like this and you expect to be on your own, but I've had literally hundreds of calls from them, not only from District 2, but from other county commissioners' districts with their concerns on how the commission is being run and some of the things that I brought up on the budget, things that we need to change, we need to actually start doing. But I just want to thank them for their prayers and support. I want to encourage those in other districts that have been calling me to call your county commissioner. Not that I'm not your county commissioner, but the one that you're actually voting in, and let them know your feelings, because a lot of them have strong feelings. Most of them were against what went on at that last meeting, and I just encourage them to call them and express your feelings and let them know how you feel about it. And you know, the voters are the one that put us in office, and that's the one ultimately that we need to be doing what they want us to do, and actually, you know, what's best for the county. And I feel like what I was talking about, you can look it up online, the definition of a county commissioner, and it says in a county commission form of government, a body of elected commissioners serves both the executive and legislative duties, meaning they enact local ordinances and administer them. They approve budget, oversee spending, and hire county employees, and obviously name roads and overpasses and things like that. There's a little bit more to it, but it was funny to me that it specifically said oversee spending, and that's what I'm talking about. I realized for 10 years it's been done the same way, maybe even longer than that. But it's certainly something that I felt like should be brought to light so that we can all look at it and, you know, think about it. Maybe, you know, you get a different view on things, and I feel like that's one thing. And obviously, it's one of our duties is to look over spending and not just let the money be spent, but that we can actually control some of the spending to get this $5 million tax increase out of the way as quick as possible.
Well, once again, you've seen the audit. You know, we heard the presentation of the audit. We have not been able to see it because it hasn't been approved by the state, but I just want to get your overall thoughts on the audit. What's in it, the highs, the lows. I mean, they said we're doing better than, you know, we're moving in the right direction, but your thoughts on the audit overall. I mean, that's what you're upset about, is the audit. You and Ralph wanted to reprimand us, you know, it's been 3 attempts. You had the first meeting behind closed doors, that didn't work. And you had the open meeting where you basically expressed your concerns, and that didn't work. Then you had the official meeting where you had the motion and the second, and it voted down 3-2. So obviously you're not happy with the audit. So in the findings, I just want to get your overall thoughts on the audit and how bad is it?
Well, it's not necessarily the audit that I was upset with. As I said before, I'm not here to bash anybody. I don't feel the need to down anybody. I think it's a problem that I have found. Ralph, I took it to him, and he looked at it, and he agreed that it's a problem. Maybe a problem that nobody has seen or looked at before, maybe not as in depth as I have. The audit certainly confirmed everything that I said from the point before. We tried to do it in private and take care of it so that we didn't have to expose everything. I'm definitely 100% for transparency, but however, some things, to kind of, I don't know, if you don't want to put people down so that they can't do their job correctly because they have that weighing in the back of their mind. If you bash them, or if you put them down, or even put it out into the public that they're not doing their job to the best of their ability. I just felt like we could handle that behind closed doors, take care of the problem, and once the problem's taken care of, I think ultimately our job has been done. But they did not see it that way, and they didn't want to take care of the problem in private. So I felt like that I needed to bring it out and let the public know what was going on, part of my transparency, so that they could see that there are items within the commission that are not being done and not being looked upon as part of our job, which obviously, when I just read that while ago, it is definitely part of our job, is looking at spending and controlling that spending.
Now tell us what specifically are the issues. What are the ordinances that are being violated that shouldn't be violated? Because that's what the word is from you and Ralph Hickox. That certain things are supposed to be done a certain way, they're not being done a certain way, but people really don't understand what you're talking about. Explain to us, what are those ordinances? What are you upset about?
Well, the sad part of it is that Ed and I kind of think alike, because when he was a county commissioner, he was the chairman of the commission at the time, and they implemented the ordinance that says that he is only allowed to approve around $10,000 without.
County administrator is what you're talking.
Yes,
the county administrator is only allowed.
that's right.
Okay. No matter who's there.
Right,
Okay,
and
the county
he was a
administrator.
commissioner at the time.
Okay.
When they apparently he had a lot to do with writing this ordinance, and they implemented it because he obviously saw a problem with the administrator having the authority to spend whatever he wanted to. So they wrote the ordinance up saying that he could only spend $10,000 without coming from the board for permission. And to me, basically what that says is, yes, we have an administrator. Yes, he is overspending and he is controlling it, but up to $10,000. After
Now, is
that,
that within budget, or is that over budget that they can approve?
no, that's within budget.
Within budget.
That-
Okay. If there's $10,000 that they need to approve because of some situation that's happened that would put them over budget, because when you say budget, you're talking about the different departments. Every department has a budget that supposedly they're supposed to stay in.
That's
So
correct.
let's say there's a certain area that needs an extra $10,000, but it'll put them above budget. Is the administrator allowed to do that?
To my understanding, it's $10,000 period.
Okay.
The
Total, all across the board.
That's right.
Okay.
And then after that, what you do is he would, and certainly after the board looks at it, if it's a justifiable expense, we would definitely pass it. I don't see a problem with that.
Okay.
But I think it's more in keeping the board in tune with the spending. So if we go out of our realm of the budget in each department, or even a line item, we've had air conditioners and transmissions and rear ends go out on road graders and things like that go over that $10,000 limit. They bring it to us. We know it has to be done. So, yes, we're going to approve it and let it go through. A lot of people have talked about storms and things like that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about day-to-day spending, normal items, and we just need to look at it as a commission and decide whether it is justifiable spending for the taxpayers' money. I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of elderly people that are really hurting with this 5 mil increase. It's sad to hear some of these stories where people have to borrow money to pay their taxes
To keep
so
their
that they
place.
don't do what?
To be able to keep their home.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
You don't pay
So
the taxes, you lose them.
that's exactly right. So, that they live on a fixed income. They have a budget. They've planned that budget out. And, when this came on to start with, they only had a couple of months to plan for it. So you couldn't save up enough money in 2 months to justify or to be able to rectify a 38% increase in your taxes. Granted, some people it's not as much. I know mine went up $2,000. That's a lot of money to me, and that was part of the reason that I ran for commission, because I wanted to know why we could not control the budget enough to avoid having to go up 5 mils. 5 mils is at the time the digest was at 716,000, so it comes up to be 3.5, almost $3.6 million extra each year, and that's
Is there
just
light at the end of the tunnel? Is this, once you get this problems that Wayne County has had over the last 15 years when it comes to the budget, is there, Kevin McCrary, County Commissioner, see a light at the end of the tunnel? I know you've only been there a little bit, but when some of this stuff is paid off, can we hopefully see a reduction in county taxes, let's say next year or the year after?
I certainly hope so. Like I say, I'm still having a problem going through this because I am seeing actual numbers. I see, some of the numbers are what we hear. And, anybody can repair a spending problem with enough tax money. You can come out of the hole and you will be fine if you have enough tax money. And almost $3.6 million, you should be able to do that. Anybody can do that if you add more money to it, just like any business. When they start seeing a downfall, they either go get more money, more jobs, or either they come back and they cut spending. And the only way you cannot completely fix a problem by throwing money at it. You have to have a change, and the only way to change is for the commissioners to look at the spending and control the spending. If you have more spending going out than we have revenue coming in, obviously we're not going to be able to get rid of the 5 mil increase. Now, the problem I have with this whole situation is the payback system. They told us that they were going to increase 5 mils for a few years, and we were going to pay back T-SPLOS, which was $4.7 million, and they also had some more spending.
So money was borrowed from the T-SPLOS for the general budget when it's supposed to be used only for roads, bridges, and stuff like that?
Quote unquote, that's what I heard.
Okay.
But Ralph found out, and through some of the work sessions, and I'm very appreciative to the work sessions that we're having, because we do find out a little bit of information, but I think if you can't go through the budget sheet and look at it and see where the problems are, I don't think you're ever going to be able to figure out the problems that we have and see some of the money where it's been spent frivolously or without the board's approval.
Kevin, before you move forward, I just want to reemphasize the one point you just made. The ordinance that is being violated is the same ordinance that Ed Jeffords, who's now the administrator, who was a commission at one point, voted to implement. While he was a commissioner, he said, we don't want this administrator spending more than $10,000 without him coming to the commissioners to get approval. And now as administrator, he's violating that same ordinance that he voted to put in place. I think people need to understand that.
Did he do that? Did he spend more than $10,000 without the board's approval?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Okay, just want to make sure we're stating the facts here.
It was done last month because I had some of them.
Could add in allegedly, but you're saying that it was more than 10.
Yes, sir.
As county commissioner. Okay, all right.
Yes, sir. And some of them were arguing the fact that we're not going to let this happen again, and we're going to be able to control the spending and things like that. And we had a work session a couple hours before the meeting, and just so happened in that meeting we were advised, or after Commissioner Hickox asked the question, were we through with one of the buildings we were working on? They said yes, we were, and we asked about the budget, and yes, it did go over the budget. It went over the budget $41,000.
Tell us a little bit about that building. That's one story I keep hearing. What's the real story about that building? Explain where that building's at, because that's where a lot of the money supposedly has been spent without anybody knowing that the money was being spent.
That's right.
That was started under another administrator.
That's
way back. But from what I understand, it was done without the board's approval. Is that true?
I don't.
Because I don't ever remember the board passing thing. We're going to build a new emergency services building.
I can speculate, but I don't want to.
Okay.
But I did hear that there was not a vote taken on the entire board.
And that was several years ago.
That's
it's been sitting there forever. They're on Joy Williamson. On Henson Mosley Road.
That's right. And they asked us at the beginning of this year, right when I went into office, about paving the parking lot. It was $55,000. Well, as I explained, you can't build a building and let it sit there forever for a couple of years till we get the money and get everything situated, and not pave the parking lot and not be able to use it because it'll go down. You'll get mold and mildew and things like that in it. So we did approve to have the parking lot paved. They did approve to have the building completed. Now, whether these approvals have dollar figures attached to them, I don't think they have. And we're looking at more than what we expected in some of the money, and that's part of what I'm trying to get, is to where when we spend money, I want to know how much it is. You know, after you do a job, I ran several businesses, and I give the good Lord all the credit for them. Never was in the red, always kept up with my stuff. I retired at 49 years old. Thank the good Lord, I know how to run a business. I know how to look at numbers and figure out what we've got to do to get it right and to spend it right. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to do their job. I'm trying to put control over that job so that that money is not spent. If we're looking at a budget, you look at every aspect, whether it's a building, a road, whatever. You should be able to look at most of the aspects that go into that job, whether it be materials, labor, add all of that up, and you should come pretty close. I can think of very few jobs that I did that I went over budget, because when you are in business for yourself and you go over budget, you eat that money. That's money that comes out of your pocket, because you will not stay in business if you continue to go over. And I think that's what we have to hold to, whether it's an outside contractor or, you know, one of our workers that's looking at that job to bid it. They need to have a firm bid on that job and a grasp of how the money will be spent, and be held accountable for what's spent on that job. And if they come up, have an so to speak, that's out of the realm of the scope of work, then they can come to us and ask us. And then we will decide
and
whether
us
that
is
money...
the county board,
Yes,
county
sir.
commission board.
That's right.
Kevin McCreary in this morning from the county commission.
Well, the big question now is, where do we go forward? You know, like I said, you got voted down 3-2, you and Ralph Hickox. You tried it once, didn't work, twice, didn't work, 3 times. Some say you struck out. So do you continue this battle and try to get one of those 3 commissioners that voted against you on your side, or do you just let this go and move forward and try to remedy the situation. Like I said, they're talking about having a meeting and changing some of the ordinances. Ed said he can't work with that restraint for $10,000. It needs to be more, say like 25,000, something like that. So where does Kevin McCreary and Ralph, where do we go from here? What's the solution to the 3-2 deadlock vote?
Okay, before we answer that question, County Commissioner Ralph Hickox could not be here this morning as he was going to be with Kevin, but I don't know if he was here. I don't know what we'd do. It's already 7:25, and you know you've gone quite up. So if both of y'all had been here, we'd have been here to noon probably.
I'm sorry.
No, don't say you're sorry. We got 5 more minutes. Heck, I'll take 15 more minutes if it takes it. But Ralph Hickox, County Commissioner Ralph Hickox, just texted in. That is absolutely true. The board did not vote to buy the buildings. Well, to build the buildings. It was approved by the Administrator Smart at the time, and with 2 commissioners at the time, not with the full board voting or in a meeting. Fact, not opinion, from County Commissioner Ralph Hickox. So that's how the buildings were built a few years ago.
Tell Ralph he can't chime in if he's not going to show up.
You heard it, Ralph, from Kevin.
Well,
Where do we go from here? What's the solution?
you know, they look at the
Are you still
payback.
frustrated, or I mean, you have anybody listening to you? Those other 3, or do they see? You know, like I said, you said it before, and I told people, I said, I believe you're sincere when you said, I'm not here to bash anybody. I just want the problem resolved. And you brought out the problem that you feel is a definite problem, and the fact that the audit pretty much backed that problem up, and the other 3 just still won't go along with what you and Ralph wanted. Like I said, it's a 3-2 vote against you. So do you continue that fight and try to sway one vote, or do you just try to resolve it a different way, or where do we go from here? Because a 3-2, it's never good to be in the minority. You can't get much done. You got to have 3 votes to get anything done on that board. So,
That's right.
So
That's right.
where does Kevin McCreary and Ralph Hickox go from here?
Well, I'm voted in by the people of District 2, and I feel like that I gave them a specific path that I wanted to take to try to make this county better. And I feel like that I am doing that in finding problems, taking care of those problems to get this spending under control. I would hope that the other commissioners feel the same way about their voters, and they want to do what the voters want to do, provided that it's best for Wayne County. I emphasize that part because I'm not only District 2's county commissioner, I'm everybody's county commissioner. And this is something that I felt was pertinent for us to do to be able to be an effective commission board. We have to be unified. We have to be together. I realize I'm a young, brand new, fresh, green behind the ears, wet behind the ears, whatever you
said
want
young,
to
but
say.
in terms of being a county commissioner, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like I'm young.
I didn't go there, Kevin. I did not go there.
I'm just kidding. I'm a lot older than
Come
you are,
on,
Kevin.
Butch. You want let's arm wrestle?
No, you'll beat me. I just admitted that I'm old.
Well,
In
inexperienced.
a few weeks, I'll be an official senior citizen at 65.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How about that? Well, at least you get the discount. Maybe at the Strand you'll get the discount.
Maybe Ralph will give me a discount.
Yeah.
As I walk in there, my walker. Huh?
Well, and like I say, we're looking at paying back. That's one of the things that I'm looking at. And I don't know if I answered your question completely, but this is part of what I'm looking at to see where we go from here. The thing I'm looking at, we're going to pay $500,000 a year to the GO, which we borrowed $1 million from. That'll be for 2 years.
What's GMO?
That's the hospital bond.
Hospital bond. Okay.
Yes, sir. And then we have $200,000 going to T-SPLOS. Well, Commissioner Hickox, we were looking at some numbers from a work session, and we found out that they said they borrowed $4.7 million from the T-SPLOS, but we did not generate $4.7 million. So the question was asked, how can we borrow that much money from the T-SPLOS when we have not generated that much. It generates about $40,000 a month, which is the penny tax for paving roads.
Right.
And
it
it
got the
has
bridge across Highway 169 on Lanesbridge Road is where most of that money went.
That's right. And it has specific delegations for that money. And so I've just told you $500,000 and $200,000.
Right.
Wherever it came from, we're paying ourselves back. So that's $700,000. I told you earlier that a meal at the time when we went up 5 meals was $716,000
Per meal or total? 5?
per meal.
Per meal.
Yes.
$700,000. $700,000 per meal. Okay.
Yes, and we went up 5 meals. So anyway, we're not even looking at paying back a meal per year. You see where I'm going with
Right.
this? So we're not paying back a meal, even a whole meal per year, depending on what the digest comes out this year.
When does the T-Splosh have to be paid back? This is something that I found out last year from by the news, and then I talked to our state senator. I did not know that a county or city could borrow money from a splosh, but by Georgia state law, they have to pay it back by a certain time period each year. I thought the money just stayed in one account, and then you paid it on that whatever it is. But county or city can borrow against it, but they have to pay it back by law. When do we have to pay this back to the T-Splosh that we borrowed money on?
Well, if we pay it back at $200,000 a year, apparently it's going to be longer than 20 years to get $4.7 million. And,
See, I said from day one, we're just not going to pay it back. What if we don't pay it back? What's the state do?
Yeah, what does the state do?
No, that's what I'm saying.
They're not.
They don't do anything?
I mean, we hear it all the time. Oh, we owe 4.7. Well, we're never going to pay. Like I said, even if we pay $200,000, you're talking 20-some years. What are they going to do? Shut us down?
Right.
Why don't we just write it off the books?
Well,
Why don't we just stop talking about it?
this is one
Are
of
they
the
gonna come do
things
it? Are
that
we going to be penalized? I mean, is there any repercussion at all?
It seemed like there'd be some. I mean, why have that? Why have the
don't see
state
them
tell
come-
you the Georgia legislator passed it eons ago
I don't
that
see
you
them
got to
come-
pay it back?
I don't see them come down.
Didn't they put some teeth
looking for
into it?
money? I keep hearing this and I don't ever see anybody comes looking for some money.
y'all,
So why don't we just
y'all
stop
both
talking about
staring
it?
me down.
No, I'm
right?
just saying.
I'm just asking questions. I was just shocked about when I heard this last year.
I agree.
I
Can
was
you
just-
imagine how shocked I am since I've been in the commission to find a lot of these things that are going on?
I said, we just throw that bill in a trash can and just wait for somebody from the state to say, hey, by the way, you owe us some money. Oh, we'll get to it. I mean,
Well,
$200,000.
They have collectors that come down here.
That's
and
20
should we
something.
be worried about our kneecaps down here?
I'm not. I'm not really worried about the state. What I'm worried about is the citizens that paid that penny in to start with. See if you can follow me here.
Okay.
We paid a penny to get roads paved, correct?
Right.
Okay. And we were expecting to get roads, extra roads, and things like that paved. Okay. The money was spent somewhere else, and now they have gone up on the millage rate on our property taxes to pay that same money back. Is that not double taxation? I mean, we're having to pay it. We paid it the first time with the penny, and now we're having to pay it back with extra property tax to get the same road paved. I mean, as a taxpayer, I can tell you that's how I feel. Whether the money was spent, I realized when Mr. Jeffords got in there, he was in a bind, and we had a lot of frivolous spending before. And again, that's all I want to take care of to make sure we don't have a problem like that come up again.
Let me ask you a question that keeps coming up. They keep talking about a chief financial officer, somebody to handle the money. Why don't we go in that direction?
Well,
I mean, because listen to that audit. What really concerned me was this is just what it came across to me. We don't know where a T-Splosh dollar is from a Splosh dollar to general fund dollar. It's like it's all in one lump sum, and we're just paying bills as it goes. Where, like you said, when you go to vote and they ask you to vote for a certain tax, it says where that money's supposed to go. As you just mentioned, that money didn't go where it was supposed to go. It got spent somewhere else. And that's why people get frustrated when they get hit with all these, we want you to vote for this, we want you to vote for that. They say, why should I vote for that when it doesn't go where it was supposed to go?
That's correct.
That's the frustration to me. So to me, like I said, the school system has that chief financial officer. They look like they got every penny, when people went and voted for the East Lost, they said they're going to build schools. Well, you can see the schools. They built Scriven, they built Odom, they built Jesup, they built Arthur L. Smith. So we know where that money went. But countywide, all this money comes in and it's like, where did that money go? And the frustrating thing about it, they said all that money was voted. They're supposed to pave roads. And that was the most frustrating thing because what it came up to is, well, we can't get the right of way. Oh, do you know how much it cost to pave just 1 mile of road? And all that conversation went like I said. So they just took that money and said, we're beating our head against the wall trying to get these roads paved, so we're just spending somewhere else. And that's what it came across to me when they did the audit. I mean, it looks like all this money is being raised, but they can't tell where the T-SPLOS to the SPLOS to the, I mean,
it's the regular budget, the regular taxes,
and that was the frustrating thing listening to the audit to me.
That's right. Well,
and that's why the auditor said it was a mess.
And they laughed when I told them it was a mess.
Right.
And it is. It really is. And back to your first question, a CFO. I've heard figures around $90,000 a year for a CFO.
Man, I wish I knew numbers.
Do what now?
He said he wished he knew.
Oh. Well, and I've just heard that. We have not got bids, or we haven't gotten bids from anybody or anything like that. That's just numbers that have been thrown out there, approximations. That's a lot of extra expense. Yeah. To me, I think what I am trying to implement, I'm going to say again that if we control the spending as a board of commissioners, it can't happen. It will not happen. If your job is on the line, if you overspend, you're not going to overspend. And you're going to bring it before the board and make sure it's cleared with them before you do anything. Before, in previous administrations, that was not implemented and it was not kept up with. I don't think the numbers were given out in the budget and the spending like we do now in the work sessions, which the work sessions are great. Are the work sessions showing us everything? I don't think so. But I believe if you have a consequence for not being open and transparent with the Board of Commissioners, then that is the point where if you have some type of ramification that's going to come from that and you don't follow our guidelines and you know something's going to happen, whether it's termination or being written up or whatever to correct that problem, then it's going to continue to go on if you don't have some kind of consequence for what you're doing. The CFO, maybe later on when we get better financially stable, I think would be a good thing. It's just like an audit and a forensic audit. The difference in an audit like we have every year and a forensic audit, money-wise is astronomically different because our auditors, from what I understand, go by the numbers that they are given. A forensic audit says, I don't want any numbers you've got. I want the receipts, the check stubs, and things like that. They go through it from the ground up, and they figure out for themselves where the money was spent and who the money went to and how much. And basically that's all I'm trying to do is get it to where spending is controlled. Have I said that enough?
I think so, Kevin. Yeah. Get spending in line.
Just want to see
what you're saying. Is that right?
We're getting to the end of the show. I just want to appreciate you coming in. I just want to end on one final question because this is another thing that just I've been curious about. The ACCG recently came in and looked at everything, right? Remember that?
That's
we
right.
paid them to come and look, blah, blah, blah. Did they report any of this?
Vaguely.
They did. Did they mention, did they kind of say, look, there's a problem here, you need to look at it? I mean.
They did, but the ACCG gives more direction than anything. They're not going to give a lot of criticism, and I believe they said that in the meeting, that they were not there and they were not going to criticize anybody. They were going to come in and make suggestions as to where we went. And if you look between the lines, you could see they were definitely requested that we get a CFO. And so they knew there was a problem in administration where the money was not being handled correctly or not followed correctly. And I really believe that that's another way that the county can save money by not getting a CFO at this time. We can use that money to help pay off some of the other debts we have. But by the same token, as long as the commission is kept in the loop of the spending, we would be able to control that spending without it being gone. As of right now, we have zero control. I don't think people realize what that vote entailed, but what it said was, at this point, we do not have any control over the administrator on how much money he spends. They pretty much let him go and said, we're not going to abide by the ordinances. We're not going to enforce the ordinances. The state laws. The state law says that you cannot shift money from department to department. Once that budget is set, that money is set, that's all you can do. You cannot shift it from one department to the next. Well, that's being done. And we have seen that over and over where it's been done and been done for a good bit in the past. And commissioners, I think we need to step up and start following this money so that when we have a problem, we can stop it quicker than $8 million later.
Okay, we apologize. We have gotten tons of text messages in this morning, but we're already 10 minutes over. We probably could make a 2-hour forum out of this one day.
I'm ready.
You ready? Ralph Hickok should be in tomorrow, not tomorrow, next week. And he can discuss this issue also. Plus, the Butch and Bob Show was open for any other county commissioner, administrator, anybody involved with that to come on the air to discuss this situation for folks who work there, county commissioners or county administrator. And Kevin McCrary in District 2, Wayne County County Commission. We do appreciate you coming in this morning.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate y'all having us and getting the information out because a lot of people are not clear. I realize I may fumble and stumble a lot in my trying to get the point across, but I do appreciate y'all being patient and going over 11 minutes and 32 seconds.
A numbers man.
That's right.
All right there. Kevin McCrary, appreciate you coming in, County Commissioner. World famous Butch and Bob Show brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply, located on Northeast Broad Street in downtown Jesup, and also brought to you by Nips Car Wash, located on Highway 301 South, just past McDonald's on the left-hand side.
The world famous Butch and Bob Show.